Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines here out in Dallas, Texas, and my partner in crime here, Jackie. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Jackie uh,
Yeah,
from Denmark, and
yeah, in
yeah,
Denmark. Yeah, back where it's really cold. And here, actually, I didn't tell you this. Like it was starting to get cold here, and then it went up to, which you won't make sense to you, but it was like over 8. It's like in the mid 80s, which is almost like summer. I mean, it's like it's so hot right now, it's ridiculous. I need to start wearing shorts again. But anyway, we're having our little short talk. In today's topic, I was telling him I've been reading all these books on direct marketing and basically consulting and pricing, and one of the things was pricing, and it dawned on me, which Jackie and I had discussed some of this before. Of one is selling, of course, selling your AutoHotkey code, but the other one, which like especially when I worked in corporate America. I would try to evangelize and teach people AutoHotkey, and I never ever, and even now, like in our webinars, we don't charge for our time to teach people, and yet more often than not, I think by not charging people anything, it often doesn't get used, right? Which is it's such a shame, because I'm doing it because I really want to help people, but it's kind of ironic. I'm kind of feeling now I need to start charging people just so they have some skin in the game, as they say, and that they'll actually say, hey, I'm paying for this. I need to use it, right? And maybe the adoption rate of people will actually start using, and learning more, would have a higher adoption rate, I guess is the best way to say that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with that. If what would you say? I'm thinking on this in a way where if you actually have just a little bit of money, just enough to make it interesting for you, not you, but the listener or whatever, if they have just a little bit of money out to sit there and listen to you, they'll actually sit out the lesson or put in the time, or because it all of a sudden it has a little bit more value by itself, just because they've paid something upfront or whatever you would say. Yeah.
So
you get that.
I hadn't thought it through, but the guy Dan Kennedy that I've been reading all these books from, he also goes out of his way to make it difficult. So he doesn't do email. He also doesn't even take phone calls unless you've scheduled it like a week ahead of time. So what was interesting though is you can fax his assistant and then she sends them to him. But what he said, what it does is it forces the people that have a question to really make sure they nail down exactly what they want to know, because it's really hard to get in touch with them, right? And I'm like, this is brilliant, right? Because on the forum you'll see people just don't take time to actually write out a clear question. Right, they write something really quick, and then they also didn't search. Don't even get me started there. But I think by kind of having this process of making people jump through a couple hoops, they will put more investment of their own time to make sure things are lined up for you. Right, that like your time is hard to get, and so they will make sure that they're not going to waste it.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. And Jackie, I'm curious because we didn't talk about this at all lately. I know a couple of years ago, that's how we started talking, was you were helping me on stuff. I've been getting more and more people write me at random and asking to help fix something, right? And honestly, they actually often offer to say, I'll pay you to do X for me. And I'm the same way as she was. Like I'm not looking for money for coding. I don't mind teaching people, but I don't want to actually get paid to get to code. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm curious, do you still get people asking for help often, or?
Because my actual time on writing new helpful answers on the forum has gone down, way down. I don't get it as much as I did before. I still get it on my webpage. Of course, some of my articles there where people wanted to be refined for their specific need or problem, and it varies from willingness to pay to just asking for help. And I'm like you, Joe. I've actually tried a couple of times to code for money. And one of the things is that our good grand internet here makes it so that the salary in Denmark is so ridiculously high compared to a lot of other places,
Right.
that it's actually very, very hard for me to
be competitive.
charge
Yeah.
what's actually needed for me to call it something that I'm doing for the money.
Yeah.
Because I simply cannot charge the amount that would be needed for me to see it as something that I'm actually making any type of living from. So I've always charged less than what would make sense, but nearer to what I'd expect other people to do and what I've read other people charge. And that's been okay because it's been a hobby for me. But again, not something that I actually want to use my free time on.
Yeah.
Because the pay doesn't really pay for me being away from family and whatever I want to build.
Well, especially myself. Like you said, not only that, but you're getting paid less than what you really want to be earning. And so it's just, it's like no interest at all. Like for me, because in doing statistics works, I usually charge around $100 an hour, which it's decent money here in the US. And that's why for me coding, I know I'm not worth that coding. Right. So I know I could charge it, but I just couldn't feel good about charging it right for my time. Which is also why I'm like, I won't charge that. And so then I'm like, well, I'm not going to earn $25 an hour. For me, that's, it's just not worth my time. I'd rather go play the video game. But anyway, I guess we're a little off point, but it is. I think it does get back to is the whole, those people that do actually pay for your stuff, often it seems like they are much more likely to actually use what you give them versus doing something for free, which has been my typical thing of like, I'll say, look, if it's something super simple, I can do it quickly, but otherwise, basically, I'll teach you. We can have a call, and I'll show you how to do stuff. But what I need to add is some sort of a level, I think, to say it's $25 for the call or something, right? Even though it's still not. Back to your point earlier, it's not by the hour. It's not like I'm making money, but it's enough for them that they will feel like they need to make sure they pay attention, right? They paid for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, and I've not really charged for my time in that manner, but I've seen it on the current product that I have out there. I had a 3-day free trial.
Oh, that's
and it worked really. It worked really, really well to get customers in, but they're actually the amount of support that many of them actually needed was pretty high, way more than what they actually paid when the 3 days were over. So I used more time that I would make from them making the purchase. And when supporting these people, they would, let's say, come in, say, I have an error, please help me. And I would start helping them. And then they'd leave. They'd stop responding for hours or whatever, because they had something else to do. And maybe they came back, maybe they didn't. And this was a thing that every day, 3, 4, 5, 10 people did this, and I was using a lot of time that I actually wasn't sure would pay off.
Yeah.
And I simply ended up saying, no free trial.
Yeah. Well,
you have to put up that small amount of money immediately.
Yeah. Those books I'm reading, they actually, in direct marketing, and even any kind of marketing, but they talk about direct marketing in particular, they use the ad that they're doing for twofold. One is to find your target audience, like let's say it's for your thing, you're finding this group of people who want this thing and are willing to pay for it. But the other goal they do is they make it very clear to dissuade, to get rid of the ones that aren't the right people, right? And that was where, when you removed price from the equation, you suddenly brought in all these people that weren't necessarily really willing to spend money, right? It's because they got a free dabble onto it. And then, I'm like, it totally makes sense. What you just said is, you brought in a lot of people who didn't have skin in the game, didn't care a lot. And even then they just weren't that necessarily serious about it. Right. So it's a great lesson learned in real world with what we were just talking about, was that price actually helps filter in, because that's what they talk about, is especially businesses who have such demand. They're like, just raise your price, keep raising your price until it falls back enough, because you have the demand, right? Just keep raising your price and let it naturally filter out. And you'll, then you're back to, you're making double the profits and doing half the work, because those people are serious and they really care, right? So they actually they're paying out more money. So they're more likely to actually really be serious when you're helping them, right? And all the stuff, they care about it. And that's what they were talking about in their books too, was there's these pain in the ass customers, right? They're actually, they cost you money. They don't make you money. And why not hone in on the ones that actually are going to be profitable? And it's so funny because most businesses don't even think about profit when they're actually trying to they'll bring in anybody and everybody, right? That's what most advertising is doing, is they'll bring everybody in. But price is a great way to discriminate against bringing in people who are going to be terrible, customers. Go ahead.
Yeah, at least it was my experience with this one case, and I can't say it will work in every aspect. And here you actually have quite a complex thing to make it work the first time. This piece of software depends on so many other things being just right for it to work flawlessly. And the thing is, let's say that one of the windows needs to be an exact size.
Yeah.
And some computers today, especially laptops, are just on the brink of being that size on the screen. So, and because one of the other programs actually resizes without telling the user, the settings will tell them that it is that size, but in reality, it's just a little bit smaller because that was what could fit on their screen.
Yeah.
So instead of telling them that it is another size, it doesn't do that. And that has been a great hurdle. And because I had both a language barrier and a computer literacy barrier and other stuff like that, it's really hard to get people to use that small amount of time sitting at their computer, fixing those very, very small tweaks that were needed. And I could just see that being the same when you actually have a call, have someone call in and learning. And let's say you have one call 1 week and you want them to come back to learn the rest of whatever the topic is.
Yep.
And again, if the first one was free, it's a free demo. But then if it just doesn't fit them the next time, whatever.
Yeah. So, case in point, I was helping my real estate friend, and she leads a group of women, and so my friend told her friends what I had done for her with the Facebook likes and all this and some other stuff, and so they were interested. And so I said, okay, well, I'm not really looking for work, but I'll have one call where we'll do all three on Zoom, and we'll just have a call, and I can talk through some of the things that they could be doing for their business, just to give them some advice. And the stupidest thing was, like, I didn't charge them, right? So one lady, we were trying to line things up, and one lady was going to be out of town, and then we're like, well, okay, we'll catch these two. Well, then one lady just didn't even show up at all, right? And the other one that did, I think she really got it. She got the value, but it was one of those. It was like, I got to stop giving away my time, and if I had charged them $75 a piece or something like that to have had a review, you damn straight they would have shown up, right?
Yeah.
So it was
Absolutely.
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know yourself, the actual starting price of the software that I'm talking a lot about today is way smaller than, let's say, that, but it's enough. To me, it's just like, really, it's to me it's less than actually going to the movies, and still it makes all the difference, because every user that's coming in now actually uses that small amount of effort.
Yeah. I remember, my background's in market research, right? So I had heard a lot of stuff on studies and price, but one was in Africa, they used to give away birth control, right? And then the actual people couldn't take it. Well, I'm sorry, they wouldn't use it. And then they started charging people like a quarter or something, even in Africa, whatever they were doing this, it was just pennies, right? Basically, it was, these people were impoverished and didn't have a lot of money. So they did, but they still charged them something, even though it was tiny. And then the people would actually take it, right? And it was one of those things, like, when you're paying whatever, even if it's trivial, a small amount of money, suddenly you're like, oh, that cost me something. I need to use it. I need to do it, or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It is a thing. In whatever way it might be, it is a recurring thing that if you have something, it could also be a gift card of a small value, or even if you have a few dollars left on something that you'd still go out of your way to make sure to come back to that store to get those at $8, whatever it might be. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
So.
That's right. Really work. So humans are very I'm trying to remember the right term, but anxiety. We don't like loss, right? And that's what you're talking about. It's like, I don't want to waste this thing. Like I can't handle, even if it's $1, I'm going to drive, 5 miles and spend more in gas to use it than it's actually worth, because I can't handle the lack of, like, not using it type of thing. Or in the Seinfeld, if you ever watch Seinfeld, they have the punch cards on a ticket, and I think Elaine, if I remember right, she was getting these sandwich punches. If you get 10 punches, you get a free sub, right? Well, she didn't even like the subs, but she had to keep going back to get more of the punches to complete the ticket, right? Because she was like addicted to like saving that one sub, which she didn't even like. But it's funny.
And of course this is going a little bit off, but. I read at one point that humans and the way we compare numbers and prices and stuff like that, we would go quite far to, let's say, if you have something that costs $100, but you can get it for 90, 5 blocks down or whatever it might be. So you can actually save $10, but if you're at the car dealer or whatever it might be, and you had to drive across the city to save something like 10% of the car, or let's say $100 or $200 of the car's entire price, you wouldn't do it. I'm happy where I'll stay here. I'll buy this car. It might be $5,000 or whatever. And if I drive over there, I can save another $200. But but we always compare in relation to the save, not actually the actual saved amount. So we will drive to save $10 on something that's not pricey. On something that
because it was as a percentage. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So
That reminds me of one of the research books. I'm trying to remember what the name was, but he talked about free versus, like 1 cent and 3 cents and stuff. And it was free had this, no matter, like, you would see this ratio, like if things were 5 cents and 4 cents and 3 cents, and then free, and they did the stuff, and then people went crazy in the free. And then they nudged it all like one level. And the second thing, the free thing moved off of being free to 1 cent. It totally shifted the demand, right? Where it was no longer like this crazy demand, but people in general, you hear the word free and they're like, oh my God, I have to get whatever. Like, you go for it like crazy, even when the other prices are just trivial, right? They're a couple pennies, but you hear free and you're like, oh yeah, I'll take the free things, right? Yeah. And in case anyone's interested, this is the book on price strategy. It's much more of a marketing positioning book. So it's not really relevant for AutoHotkey stuff, but it's a really good book in talking about how you decide on your pricing and what it's worth. And then you don't think about what it's worth to you, think about what the customer thinks it's worth. Another really good one I'm reading from this guy, Dan Kennedy, is it's targeting the affluent, so really wealthy people. And what was really interesting is they talked about, like, for both you and me, Jackie, also, we have different price elasticity around different areas, right? So I'm not willing to spend more for like brand names of cars or clothes or Cokes or whatever. But hey, when it comes to books, right, I go crazy. I can't stop buying books. Like, I'm addicted to it, right? There are things that I am very frugal on. And then there are things that, like, money just doesn't matter when it comes to it. I'm not very sensitive on price. And it's one of those things you have to remember. There are people out there that, like, are very passionate in a certain area. And then if you can find them and target them, right, their price elasticity, which means how much you can stretch that price and the people will still buy it. It's really big versus for other people, the same product and everything, they're just different state of mind. Like, they just don't, they won't spend an extra nickel for it. So a lot of it's about positioning.
Yeah, the thing with that is also, when I actually had this free trial, I would actually have a good amount of the people going through the free trial into the actual paid use, and that's okay. I just had too much work on getting people through the free trial. But the people that stayed, I think that for a couple of weeks now, I actually haven't had anybody say, why is your product priced so high compared to the competition? I'm at maybe double of some of the competition, because I believe that my product is worth double. Yeah. And my customers now seem to agree, because nobody is actually complaining. So it might be too cheap. Who knows? But
well, I would absolutely.
Or when they
go ahead.
Yeah, before they had this. Oh, I started getting it for free. So why is it that expensive?
Right.
And now when they start paying the same amount at the beginning, they're not complaining. So I'm either reaching some completely different customers, or the price is at least in a good place.
You're absolutely correct that once you give something away for free, trying to charge for it later is really hard, right? Versus you can give them a disc like you did, kind of give them the free version for a couple weeks. But as long as they know up ahead, this is a trial for this thing, but you're going to be paying X dollars. It doesn't get perceived as like, well, this thing was free and now I'm paying for it, right? It's like, I got it for free for a couple weeks, but I'm paying this. But the other thing I was going to mention is I would be darn sure that in your positioning, like in your ads or whatever, claim superiority. You're the best. You're the best one out there by far, right? And, because people love the leader in whatever category, right? And they think everyone, maybe if you say like the most used, even if you can't substantiate, right? No one can check. I mean, there's no way to know. So just say the most popular,
I'd say now that I'm actually first on Google for almost all of my search criteria.
Awesome.
And I'm the only one having advertising advertising. I'm the most liked Facebook version of them. I believe, from my own research at least, that I have the best product, and my customers that come from the other competition confirms this. So when I actually on my homepage say that I'm the best, we have the best this, we have the best that, it is actually something that, exactly. So that's
cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, let's do our.
But
go ahead. I was gonna say let's get close to wrapping it up so we don't go crazy long like we often do. But go ahead if you want to finish whatever thought you were.
It's a good idea. It's I was just trying to get back to where we were actually coming from. So a good idea if we're trying to wrap it up. It is, I at least have seen the effect of having something with a price compared to something that's free.
Yeah.
And it might not be knowledge. This is an actual product, but the same is, let's say you say, okay, I'll gladly help you learn this. Let's plan for 3 calls, and let's say whatever price that would make sense for those. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can be certain that they'll actually show up for all 3.
Yeah.
Instead of using, let's plan for 3 calls and they'll drop off after 1 or 2.
Well, yeah, or they also need to reschedule all the time. They don't treat you as, they don't see you as valuable, right? So you're almost dispensable.
Exactly.
And so, when they're paying you, it kind of shifts where you're an expert. They acknowledge that. And suddenly they're going to be more attentive and more flexible and like you said, actually follow up. Because I know for both of us, we want them to learn it and use it, right? Not I'm not trying to make money, but it's kind of ironic. Like I almost have to do it to increase the likelihood that they'll actually use it. And so I think I'm going to start charging. Even when people email me and say, I can help you with that. And there's a minimum $30 fee for me to discuss this, right? Something, right? It's just, and it's, $30, it's, not a tiny amount of money, but it's enough. I think that, $5 would be too ridiculous, right? It's like, you're only worth $5 for talking for an hour. So I think having it around for me, I would say like $30, even though for me, $30 an hour isn't worth my time. But I think for most people, it's at least high enough that'll encourage them. It's a sizable amount enough of money that they'll say, I don't want to just throw $30 out the window. Right. And that's, I guess, more particular, more about.
I remember when we were talking about setting the price at some point is that I always go back to this Pat Flynn guy who's...
Oh, right. I remember him.
Make smart online income or whatever it was his first website was called, and now he's a really, really big podcast guru kind of thing with opening speaks at a lot of different conferences and interesting guy. But he had a story when he was new that he had actually made a small guide to how you would complete some kind of exam, the architect exam or something like that, where he had a guide. You need this, you need that, you need this. These have this and this and this ready. Yeah. And he had set the price point at, I can't remember, $12 or something like that for this piece of almost the PDF thing he would send people for $12. And people were like, oh my God, you're totally right. That's exactly what I needed. And people would pay these $12. And people immediately start saying, oh, you're charging way too little. Yeah. It's way too cheap. You can charge way more for whatever this is. And he eventually, after being told a lot of times, he actually set the price quite higher at just about 30. I think it was $27. So more than double the first price he had set. And the sales actually went up.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
And of course, as a newbie, without any prior knowledge. He was dumbfounded by the fact increasing the price actually made him more sales.
I've learned this, that on items that there's really nothing to compare to, people will use price as a way to estimate the value of something, right? So by setting your price, when you don't have other, like you're not on Amazon and they can look at 10 other ones that are the same darn thing, right? And even then, they'll still look at your price and go, it must be really good, right, for charging this. But when there's not other things that are really comparable, setting that price higher, you're setting, this is what its value is. And so people are like, wow, it must be worth more, right? And then what you need to do is to back it with testimonials, right, of people saying, oh, it's really, really worth the money, right? And then it's a lot easier.
Here in, I don't know if you get the same on Facebook, but at least at one point, Wish.com was a very, very big seller on Facebook here. And it's just yet another online shop that ships from China. And compared to Danish prices, everything is just cheap. The only thing that actually costs anything, you'll almost get everything, all items for less than the actual cost of shipping the item. Just weird. And so a lot of people in Denmark have used that site, but the thing is that because it's so cheap, people actually don't expect getting quality. So when, let's say, you buy 4 coffee cups, for $1. So you get all 4 for $1, and it's shipped to you, and one of them is broken. Don't actually do anything because, hey, you still got 3 for $1.
That's right. Yeah.
But where with everybody else, you'd immediately go down to the store and say, hey, the thing I bought. So price can really, really matter a lot. Both where here it's getting so cheap that people immediately don't expect quality, which is just weird. That's not normal. That you get around that issue by being able to sell something that cheap. And I just think that if you turn that on the other way around, instead of saying, okay, you get something for a very low price, you actually immediately have this very low price and people don't expect quality. So that's exactly what you're saying, is that if you price yourself too low, people still don't actually value whatever you are giving them at anything of value.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to find one other book I had. Here. No, that's not it. Anyway, I don't see it. I should say it's Positioning by Al Ries and Jack Trout. It's I guess I could pull it up on Amazon and show people, but it's a great seminal. It's one of my favorite business books I've ever read. Let me go ahead and share my screen just to say it does talk a little bit about pricing, but it's more about just positioning your company or your product or whatever. And they literally wrote the book on positioning back, I believe, in the 70s. There we go. And it's just as applicable today as it was back when they wrote it. It's back. That was a reprint. This was it was done earlier than that. This is the 20th anniversary. Yeah. So 20th anniversary in 2000.
Yeah. Okay. So
brilliant book. Anyway, I highly recommend it. Then also Laura Ries and Al Ries, they've written several books together, and they're all really good. Anyway, it's really, this is him and his daughter here, and they've written several books together. They're really good about positioning and understanding how to basically get a premium and how to keep customers and differentiate yourself. It's so important to differentiate yourself compared to the competition, right? So like, especially for your stuff, make it clear how you're superior, right, to everyone else. When you're a market leader, people love market leaders. And when you're the market leader, brag about being number one. When you're not the market leader, what's interesting is you position yourself against them and you say, we're like that, only we're this. And because people already know of the other one, it helps them understand how you're different than them, and it's positioning them in your mind, in their minds. But anyway, it's a great read.
A lot of people did that against Microsoft, as an example.
Yeah.
I don't believe that works just as well anymore, but I believe that maybe 10 years or so ago, a lot of companies actually did that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and, unless you got something else, we'll wrap this up.
No.
It was a good call. We'll catch up with everyone next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.